I always understood that God protects us by standing between us and whatever is coming, like a wall, a barrier, something in front of me. But that is not the only posture Scripture describes. Deuteronomy 33:27 says, underneath are the everlasting arms, not just in front, not just behind, underneath. And once you understand why God would position himself there, once you see what that kind of protection actually looks like, you will never read that verse the same way again, and you will never feel alone in your unsteadiness the same way again either. I am Katie Ann, and this is episode 100 of the Beyond Believing podcast. I have been taking you through a series about who you are to God and who God is to you. Seen, known, pursued, cherished, shepherded, fought for by a warrior, and today we land on the identity that's been underneath every single one of them. And I mean that literally. I was driving down a back road one afternoon looking for an owl nest my kids and I had been tracking. I had my eyes on the tree line searching. I missed the owls entirely. What I saw instead, I almost missed that too. A bird flying underneath another bird, not beside it, underneath it, steadying its flight from below, in a posture I did not have a name for yet, and I couldn't stop looking at it because the second I saw it, I thought of a verse. Deuteronomy 33:27, the same chapter I brought you to in our episode on God as your warrior. Underneath are the everlasting arms. I'd read that verse 100 times, but watching that bird hold position underneath, steadying, not just waiting to catch, something clicked into place I hadn't seen before. This is what it looks like to have his everlasting arms underneath you. Maybe you're like me on that back road, still scanning the tree line, still looking for the next sign that you're recovered. Or maybe you stopped looking up a long time ago. Maybe you decided the sky was empty and quit checking. If that's you, I need you to stay with me too. This isn't just for the woman still searching. It's for all of you. Here's what I want to do with you right now. I want to walk through this the way I actually worked through it myself, because I didn't sit down already knowing this. I found it. And once I saw it, I could not unsee it. Exodus 19:4 says, "You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." Did you know that's the first time God ever describes himself this way in Scripture? The first eagle wing declaration in the whole Bible? And look at where he says he's taking you. Not just away from Egypt, to himself. The point of his protection was never just escape, it's nearness. The safest place isn't a life where nothing painful happens to you. It's nearness to him. You've been waiting for him to protect you from something. He's been trying to bring you to himself. Deuteronomy 32:10-12 says, "He found him in a desert land and in the howling waste of the wilderness. He encircled him. He cared for him. He kept him as the apple of his eye, like an eagle that stirs up its nest, that flutters over its young, spreading out its wings, catching them, bearing them on his pinions. The Lord alone guided him." I want to walk you through this slowly because every verb in here is a movement towards you. He found you in the wilderness, not in the place of arrival, before you could fully find yourself. He encircled you, not a wall between you and the world, a circle drawn around you. You are inside of that circle. He cared for you. He was paying attention. He kept you as the apple of his eye, the most precious, most carefully guarded place there is. He hovered over you. The mother eagle doesn't just observe from above, she positions herself so her young don't fall unsupported. He spread his wings both above you and beneath you. He caught you. This was never a God waiting to see if you'd fall. He was already in position. He carried you, not on your own strength. He guided you. Your story has a direction, even on the days it doesn't feel like it. This is the whole series in one passage. I told you he's your warrior. I showed you he's your shepherd. I showed you how he pursues you with boundaries and restraint, never hot and heavy, never desperate, always intentional, because that is how a godly man will pursue you. He knows your worth and he wants to protect it. An unhealthy man knows your worth as well, and he wants it for himself. I showed you what he knew about you before your marriage ever ended. What it means to be seen, known, and cherished enough to be fought for and brought back. Every one of the episodes leading to this one has been pointing here to this passage, to our God, a warrior who fights for you, a shepherd who carries you, a God who pursues you, sees, knows, and cherishes you. That is not 8 different versions of God. That is one identity from every angle you need to see it from. He is your protector. Psalm 91, 1-4 says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler." 2 kinds of protection held together in one image, the tenderness of feathers and the strength of a fortress. God's protection is never soft without strength and never strong without tenderness. And notice what the text says functions as your shield. His faithfulness, not your vigilance, not your ability to predict every danger coming. His unchanging character is the shield. Your safety rests on who he is, not on what you can manage to do. That matters if you've learned to associate protection with control. His covering doesn't suffocate you. It doesn't diminish you. His strength creates a place where you can finally breathe. Here's the part I need you to hear before we get to the answer. You've learned what protection looks like from above you, around you, beside you. What you've never been shown is what the text says about beneath you. So stay with me. Because Deuteronomy 33, 26 and 27 says, "There is none like the God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you, and on the clouds in his majesty. The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He goes before you, riding across the heavens on your behalf. He's above you, sovereign over what you can't see or control. He's your dwelling place. You don't just live under his protection, you live inside his protection." I love this imagery. And you just picture God, the God of Jeshurun, riding across the heavens to help you, on the clouds, in his majesty. God, this knight in shining armor, you may have understood as your rescuer, as your refuge, as the dream and the knight you supposed to be looking for. Not because you're a damsel in distress. Quite honestly, we're all in distress, my friend. We are all in some way in distress, and we need the only rescuer to ride across the heavens to our aid. And he promises he will. This isn't a God who only catches you when you fall. These aren't emergency arms. They are everlasting, meaning they were already there before you knew you needed them, before your marriage ended, before the nights you sat on the floor and didn't know how you were going to get up, before any court date or silence. He was already underneath you. You weren't falling through empty space. You were falling into arms that were there before you started to fall. Now, here is what I actually realized. I want to take you back to that back road one more time. because I only had half the picture that day, and here's the rest of it. That bird flying underneath wasn't just there to catch the other bird if it fell. As I watched closer, I noticed that this was a mother teaching her baby bird how to fly. She wasn't just providing a safety net underneath, she was intentionally pushing her baby higher, flying just beneath it, close enough to steady it, far enough to let it feel its own wings working, and providing the assurance that only a mother can. She wasn't catching, she was teaching. And that's what I'd never understood about this passage in Deuteronomy 33. I'd read underneath of the everlasting arms as a contingency, a God who'd be there if things got bad enough, as a safety net. But that's not the whole picture. The arms are already underneath you, not just to catch you if you fall, but to teach you how to use the wings He gave you in the first place. He doesn't want you permanently grounded, dependent, afraid to leave the nest. He's underneath so you can learn to fly without being afraid of the fall. Now, I have to say something that might be a little controversial because I think this one gets misused more than any other passage in Scripture, and I want to walk through it with you carefully. You've probably heard that God hates divorce. Maybe you've heard, let no man separate what God has joined together, or had Matthew 19 or Mark 10 quoted to you like a verdict, flat, final, no room to breathe, and maybe as a judgment. Here's what almost never gets said alongside it. That moment in Matthew 19 wasn't Jesus handing down a rule out of nowhere. The Pharisees were testing him. They were pulling him into a live legal debate of their day. Two rabbinic schools argued over what actually counted as valid grounds for divorce under the certificate of divorce provision in Deuteronomy. One of those schools had gotten so lenient that a man could legally divorce his wife over something as small as burning his dinner. If he simply changed his mind about her, decided he didn't like what she wore, decided he wanted someone else, she could be put out with almost no protection at all. So when Jesus answers, he isn't loosening anything. He's tightening it on purpose, and he's doing it for her, for the women of the day. He's raising the bar on men who were treating marriage as disposable and treating women as replaceable. And he's not being gentle with the religious leaders standing in front of him either. He calls out to the hardness of their hearts directly, the posture behind their question, not just the technicality of their law. This was never a neutral teaching moment. It was Jesus protecting the vulnerable party in that culture, the women, from being discarded for nothing. Here's what I want you to notice. We will happily read every other hard passage in Scripture through historical setting, cultural framework, and original audience. But these ones about divorce get lifted straight out of that setting and quoted at hurting women like a courtroom verdict with no situation behind it. Often by people never asking what actually happened in a marriage or whose hardness of heart was really the problem. I don't think that's how we're meant to handle any passage of Scripture, and I don't think it's how we're meant to handle this one either. What Scripture actually shows you is far more personal than a doctrinal position on your marital status. His protective identity includes preventing harm, delivering you from danger, sustaining you through danger you may have to walk through, but never alone. Exposing what was never safe. Sometimes protection looks like him removing something you thought you needed. Removing false sources of security. God is a jealous God not because he's controlling, but because he knows what cannot hold you. His protective identity includes healing what's already been wounded. Sometimes protection arrives afterward as healing, nourishing you in hidden places. The wilderness isn't evidence you were abandoned. Sometimes it's where he takes you to keep you. And lastly, God's protective identity includes preparing you to fly again. Isaiah 40:31, where it reminds us that our wings will be renewed, he never protects you into permanent confinement. You weren't abandoned when your marriage ended. You weren't uncovered when a covenant you entered with a man was broken. God's covenant with you was never dissolved in a courtroom. You didn't lose your covering. You just never had it from where you thought you did. Can I tell you honestly why this series exists at all? Why I even wanted to share this idea about the greatest love story with you? It's because I grew up believing the knight in shining armor, the love we're taught to long for and look for and seek after, was the stuff of fairy tales, a nice story that just wasn't real for me. And then as I started reading my Bible, I found out that actually is not a fairy tale at all. It's the oldest true story there is. Every fairy tale we were ever told was just a borrowed echo of this one that got distorted. And what gets me, what genuinely never stops getting me, is how perfectly he laid out this series. We started talking about how he is our warrior, then our shepherd, how he pursues us, sees us, knows us, cherishes, and now protects us. Every single one of these was not a separate lesson. It was one facet of a love so multifaceted that it took 100 episodes just to start showing you the shape of it. This is why I love the Bible so much. Every time I open it, God teaches me something new about who he is and something new about who I am. Every single time I close it in awe, again, not because the information is new to him, because it's new to me. Every time I'm finally ready to see it. That's all I want for you, not new information, an invitation to open this same book and let him show you something you weren't ready to see last time. His love is more abundant than either of us can fully take in. I just want to invite you to stand in it with me. You are not a woman who lost her covering. You are not someone God forgot to protect. You are not behind the everlasting arms. You are not beside them, hoping they will reach you in time. You are covered fully by them, above you, on every side of you, and beneath you. Before the wedding, during your marriage, the night it all ended, and every night since, he was already there. You are seen. You are known. You are pursued with restraint, intention, and never carelessly, because you are cherished and carried by the Good Shepherd and fought for by our great warrior. And underneath all of it, you are protected, not because you found the right place to stand, because he found you first and he has not moved since. Just like Psalm 91 reminds us under his wings we will find refuge, you can also be reminded of being sheltered in the shadow of his wings repeatedly all throughout the Psalms, in Psalm 17:8, in Psalm 36:7, in Psalm 57:1, and in Psalm 63:7. This is not just a one-time theme. It is an underscore to how central it was to Israel to understand God's protection. If anything in this series has stirred something in you, if you've realized you've been measuring God's love with a human ruler your whole life, you don't have to sit with that alone this week. Inside the Selah community over at Storehouse Wellness, this is exactly what we walk through together. Live weekly Bible study, chaplain access, real support for the parts of healing nobody warned you about. Your first 7 days are free, and then it's simply $35 a month. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you're ready to go deeper than a community, this is the work I do in my coaching, not to be the answer, but to point you to the one who is, to remind you that you have access to everything you truly desire and to help you begin living like it today. You can apply at coachkatieann.com/call. One more thing. If this series has meant something, anything to you, would you do me a huge favor and leave a review? It helps every single woman find this who needs to hear it just as much as you did. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't hit what's next, because we are not done. I've spent 100 episodes showing you who he is to you, who you are to him, knowing that and actually receiving it, letting it change how you live, who you trust, what you risk again. Those are two very different things. And that's where we're headed next. And honestly, I think there's more of this story left to tell than I originally planned. So stay close. Hit subscribe so you never miss what's coming. Episode 101 is going to hit different. Have a great week, my friends.